All right, guys, welcome to Scratchin' and Survivin'. We knew week 12 was going to be difficult. It lived up to that and more with a lot of people being knocked out. You may have already won your Survivor pool or you're really close to cashing in. So if you're one of those people still alive, sit down, sit tight. We got more for you right here on Scratchin' and Survivin'. All right, guys, we are trying to win Survivor pools here with Scratchin' and Survivin'. Full disclosure, I am officially eliminated from all of my Survivor pools last week. I knew it was going to be tough, and it really was. Now, in the one pool where it's been single picks, we did have double picks week 3, 4, and 5 in that pool, but it's been single picks from that point on. I had Dallas lined up for last week. It was the obvious choice. Now, I had taken the Patriots earlier in the season. We did not think the Patriots were going to be a play coming into week 12, even 2 weeks ago. But with all the injuries with Tennessee, how good New England has been playing, they became a really good choice last week. As a matter of fact, they were the biggest favorite on the board after things closed. But going into Thursday, Dallas was playing on Thursday. They were the biggest favorite going into their game on Thursday. So if you had them available, not taking Dallas, I don't care what the injuries were. As we've gone over before, the line takes care of injuries. And if you want to blame the injuries on Dallas losing some of their offensive talent, they did not lose this game on offense. The score, I believe, was 36-33. They scored plenty of points to win. The defense just could not stop Vegas and the Raiders. So that's just the way it goes in these pools. We knew week 12 was going to be tough. Now, if you did not have Dallas and you had to make a choice between some of these other teams, you may have taken the Bears. Some people took the Bears. In the one pool I was in that had 6,400 people to start, we were down to 25 people. I had one entry left, and it was double picks. It had been double picks for the previous, I would say, 3 weeks. So, of course, in that one, a lot less options. Now, the Bears were an option that I did not take. Reason being was I knew a lot of people were going to take the Bears. There was only one person who could take the Cowboys, so I knew there would not be too many Cowboys available. So I figured the one person taking the Cowboys would have them. Everyone could take the Bears. They were available to the entire 25 people. I thought we'd get somewhere around 6 to 8 people. In fact, we got exactly 6 people taking the Bears. Now, the reason I didn't want to take them was because I wanted to see what happened, what transpired on Thanksgiving. Now, the Bears probably should have lost that game. If they do, it changes the way I'm going to play. Not necessarily maybe the teams I take, although it could have come Sunday and Monday, but it would give me a chance to possibly hedge. If a lot more people had taken the Bears and they lost in that particular pool, 10% of the total pot, which was over $500,000, was going towards those participants who finished in the top 10. So there's going to be some math to do there, but if we would have knocked out enough people to get close to that top 10, I would have been looking at it differently, where I may have taken a 1 o'clock team and then gone for a 4 o'clock team, or even taken a shot on the Monday night game where I would be able to hedge. As it stood, going into the games at 1 o'clock on Sunday, the only options I had for favorites were Atlanta, and they won. I did not have Cincinnati available to me. I had Houston, a loser. The Chargers were a loser, and Philadelphia, a loser. So when you have to pick 2 games and the 4 best favorites, which were all about a field goal, 2.5 to 3.5 points, the 4 best, 3 of them lose. It's going to be pretty tough to advance in your pool. So that's the way it happens sometimes with Survivor. Sometimes you just get lucky on who you have available. If you took Dallas earlier in the season and then you were able to pivot and maybe you didn't have the Patriots, maybe not necessarily the sharpest play early in the year, but sometimes these things pan out and work in your favor later in the year. As we said, we don't like to look too far in advance because we just don't know sometimes. Will there be injuries? Is someone going to come down with COVID? Teams get different. Teams look different. In 2-3 weeks from now, than they may look this week. So with all that said, I am sad, but I'm happy for you guys who are watching this and are still alive in your pool. Let's head over to Survivor Grid and see what we've got brewing here this week. Boy, week 13 was a week I really wanted to get to because of how tough week 12 was. I knew if we can avoid some of the landmines, and there were a lot of them in week 12, to get to week 13, you had some options here. Now, I would suspect, even though 19% of pools here are taking the Rams, I would suspect a lot of you do not have the Rams available to you. Now, if you do, again, this is always going to matter how many people are left in your pool, but it's going to be tough to pass up the Rams as a 13-point favorite over Jacksonville. They're at home. I know we've discussed that home and road doesn't matter. The spread is what matters, and that is absolutely true. But that's why they're a 13-point favorite and not a 10-point favorite. So we've got the Rams here at home against Jacksonville. 13-point favorite. It's going to be hard to pass them up. Now, they get Seattle in a couple of weeks. So if you're in a large pool and you do have the Rams, it's a possibility that you may want to hold off on them. But you're very likely here to be getting great leverage with the Rams this week because of the lack of people who can take them in your pool. Let's just look at week 15. What else we've got? Tampa, most likely you've taken. San Francisco, there's a good chance you've taken. But if you haven't, of course, that's going to be a really good option against Atlanta. Miami, there's a good chance you have not taken Miami. They play the Jets. So you're going to have options here in week 15. I wouldn't be scared off of taking the Rams. Now, if you've taken the Rams already and you have not taken Tampa Bay, you've got to seriously look at Tampa. They're at Atlanta, 10.5-point favorites in this game. Another one that's going to be very high leverage because a lot of people have taken the Bucs. They are another team that week 15 is a possibility, but as we just saw, there are other options in week 15. Now, Kansas City's a team a few more people have available to them, and they are not going to be a bad play either this week. 10-point favorite against Denver. Now, you have other opportunities with Kansas City. Week 14, let's just take a look here in week 14. Now, if you have not taken Green Bay, they're going to be the best option come week 14. They're on the bye this week. The next best choice is going to be Kansas City. And if you have not taken Tennessee, they get Jacksonville. So week 14, there are going to be some obvious choices. Denver, a team you may not have taken. I know a lot of people took them early in the year. They had a very light schedule early in the year. They played Jacksonville. I think they had the Jets earlier in the year. So they had some games where you may have taken them early in the season. But if you have not, you can also take them week 14 against Detroit. The Chargers get the Giants. And that's another game. If you did not take the Chargers, certainly if you had them last week, you're out of it. So if you have not taken the Chargers yet, another shot in week 14. Even Seattle, a team that you probably have not taken, they get Houston in week 14. So you're going to have options here. We've got options in week 13, which is this week. We've got options week 14, week 15, and just let's take a look at week 16. Kansas City, as we've spoken about. The Chargers, if you don't take them in week 14, you're going to have an option to take them against Houston in week 16. Dallas, I would say a lot of people have taken Dallas already. Most people who had a chance to take Dallas probably took them in week 12 and got knocked out. If you're one of the few people with Dallas remaining and you make it to week 16, you're going to be in pretty good shape, as you'll probably be the only one who could take them in week 16 against Washington. Tampa, another team we just talked about. And then Philly, you're going to have a chance either this week or week 16 with the Giants. They just lost to the Giants, but they're going to get the Giants at home. They're going to be a favorite again, should be about 6 points. We'll see if they play a little bit differently than they did last week when they knocked me out playing about as bad as they possibly could play. And you're going to get Atlanta, another shot. If you didn't take Atlanta last week, they get Detroit in week 16. So we've got options. It was that week 12 was really the week that we had to get past. And then you've got some options here. You've got Indianapolis, a team you may not have taken this week. Playing Houston, 9.5-point favorites. Arizona's at Chicago, 7.5-point favorite. You probably have taken Arizona already. So at this point, Minnesota at Detroit, another team, you're seeing 22%. That's the most popular pick right now, strictly because a lot of people have not taken Minnesota. So if you have Minnesota available to you, and then you have any of these options ahead of them, the Rams, Tampa, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Arizona, those are going to be better plays because you're going to have less people on those plays. That's what we're really looking at here as we get down to just very few people left in these pools. It's going to be extremely individual. That is, you're going to have to look at your pool. If there's 5 people left, it may be just an odd amount of people have taken the Vikings, in which case you may be the only one with the Vikings, and then they become a much better play than the average person in the average pool. So you're going to have to make that determination on your own. What we're looking for always when we get down to the end is, can we possibly be one of the only ones on a team that has just as good or close to the same likelihood as teams where everyone is taking them? That's really the name of the game. If it loses, it loses. It's going to happen. We've talked about this many times. Like I said, winning these pools extremely difficult. But if you can get yourself in a situation where you're going to be on this week Tampa, and no one else can be on Tampa, then you want to take that into consideration. If you've got 5 people left, you really need to go over exactly who each one of them can and can't take. Look at who they could take, figure out the numbers there, figure out, well, there's 5 people left, 2 can take Tampa, right, this week. Let's say you've got 2 can take the Rams. Of the 2 that can take the Rams, 1 can take Tampa and the Rams. So you kind of have to figure that out. They can obviously only take one or the other. And just go through that exercise. It's going to be well worth it for you. You're going to want to know exactly who everyone can take before you start making your choice on who to take. Because, as I always say, 7-point favorite and 8-point favorite are the same. I don't really care who the favorite is, right? Last week, great example. If you had to make double picks, a lot of people did not take Atlanta as a double pick, but they took Houston, right, as one of the double picks, because there was this, Jacksonville has been playing a lot better. People were trying to handicap it. Now, if you only had 1 pick to make and you had used up all the other teams, you had used Dallas, you passed on the Bears, let's say, and you only had 1 pick to make, that Atlanta game was only a 2.5-point spread. But Atlanta was a good team to take over Houston because of the leverage that you had in that game. If those were your 2 options, and it really worked out with the other ones as well. Philadelphia as well. You know, I have partners in the pool that I take double picks on, so there was a little bit of contentiousness. But I thought the proper picks were Atlanta and Houston. Those were going to be the 2 least picked, right? So Philadelphia was a 3.5-point favorite. Those other 2 were 2.5-point favorites. The difference is minuscule. You're looking at just a few percentage points in probabilities that the lesser of the 2, the shorter, well, I should say the lesser favorite, the 2.5-point favorite, is just a few percentage points lower in their probability and chances to win the game. But when you're looking at it from a game theory standpoint, if Philadelphia loses, and they wound up losing last week, I expected there to be between 12 and 15 people out of the 25 on Philadelphia. There was actually 24 after Dallas had lost on Thursday. So right around 50%, maybe a little bit more, I figured would be on Philly, and that's exactly where I came in on 12. So I didn't like taking Philly in that situation when you could take Atlanta, where I thought there'd be about somewhere between 2 and 4 people taking Atlanta at almost the same exact probability. And Atlanta, in fact, I believe was 3 people on Atlanta, and then there were 6 people on Houston. So more people were taking Houston. But again, in the situation where we had to make double picks, I really just want to be on teams that were close. You know, if this was a difference between a 10-point favorite and a 3-point favorite, you're thinking of it differently. But the difference between a 3.5-point favorite, 2.5-point favorite is not that great when I'm getting, look about the difference in if it's 3 as opposed to 12 people taking Philly, right? That's a quarter of the people, or 4x the amount of people taking Philadelphia at maybe a 5% greater chance of winning the game. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get ourselves in those positions. Again, with the double picks, it was going to be impossible for me to win with what I had left. You know, taking the Chargers in the afternoon was definitely an option there to hedge. Could have done that. And again, the hedging, you're going to have to look at the 4 o'clock games. That's another option as well. If you are looking at like a tiebreaker situation, you're not sure who to take the later game. Let the pool unfold in front of you. You'll have more information before you get into your pick, and then you can make a hedge decision based on, you know, if there's 5 people left in your pool and 3 of them take early games and lose, or let's say 2 of them lose, you're down to 3 people now. You have a much better idea where your equity is in that pool, and you can hedge accordingly. So there's a lot of different ways to play this. The hedge game I talked about last week, you need to start really looking at as you get into these situations where you are in a very positive situation. You have good equity now in your pool. We'll take care of all that in the comments. I appreciate all the comments from you guys each and every week. So shoot the comments with your particular pool in there. I'm going to start doing some videos on other types of pools. Now, they may not be a pool that necessarily you're in. I'm going to start doing some golf pool analysis. I strongly suggest watching these, though, because you're going to get an idea of how I break down each individual pool. I've got a new pool that I entered. A buddy of mine's running on golf this year. It's called a one and done, meaning you pick a golfer once for that week, and then you can no longer take that golfer again. But it's not Survivor and where you get knocked out. They do have Survivor golf pools also, where the golfer needs to make the cut, let's say, or finish top 20, something like that, to advance. But this is going to be a pool where you make one pick. You pick a golf. It's actually going to be 2 golfers per week. You get their earnings for that week as your tally, and then you can never pick that golfer again. And for the majors, you get a double their earnings for the value on the picks. And of course, you can only pick each golfer one time, 2 golfers per week. So I'm going to go over exactly how I break down a pool like that and how to give yourself an edge. I've historically done very well with these type of pools. There's another golf pool you may get into. Golf is becoming hugely popular, especially for pools. There's other golf pools where you may have to submit a team, and they'll put golfers in particular groups. You have to pick 1 or 2 golfers from each group, submit that team. That's the team you get for the entire year, and maybe the scoring is based on earnings or something like that. There's a way you can attack pools like that, and I'll show you how I do that. As we get to the majors, there's a lot of different pools on majors that I'll get into. Also, Calcuttas. If you've never heard of Calcutta style pools, I'm going to do some videos on Calcuttas. Great fun to do with your friends. When we get closer to the playoffs in the NFL, I actually usually run a Calcutta pool for the entire NFL season. I'll do one for the playoffs as well, and I'll show you guys exactly how to run a Calcutta pool, what it is. They really got popular for me with the NCAA tournament. It's probably the best pool you'll ever be in is an NCAA tournament Calcutta style pool. But if you play golf, you may be familiar with Calcuttas. If you play like in a golf pro, not golf pro, but in your club tournament, your club championship, you may be familiar with Calcutta, because a lot of the golfers will get together, and what it is bidding on each other, and then you own another golfer, and then based on how they perform in the tournament is how you get paid. We'll go into that on these future videos, so definitely subscribe, and I think they'll be entertaining, but I think it's going to be informative as well to you guys, just to get an idea of how to go about winning these type of pools. And I use Vegas lines or the offshore sports books. Now, I guess not just Vegas, each individual state. I use those lines really to figure it out, and you're going to get a huge edge over the majority of your field in doing so, because a lot of people are just kind of picking randomly. I'm going to show you how to use odds in every one of these pools to give yourself just a little bit of an edge, and that's going to help you tremendously in winning these pools over time. Play office pools. Whenever someone suggests office pools to you, you want to play them, because that's where you have a big edge over just maybe making bets against the spread or the money line, things like that, because you're playing against a lot of dead money when you play in these kind of pools. So subscribe to the channel and like these videos, share them. It helps us with the algorithm, of course. Also, just download the Sharp app, and then you'll get everything inside of the Sharp app. We got a ton going on in there. We're in the heart of the NFL season, NCAA football. We got the bowls coming up, and yeah, get the app, subscribe to the channel, and then hopefully survive this week. Should be a little easier, we hope, than week 12. So if you made it this far, congratulations, good luck this week, and I'll see you all next week on Scratchin' and Survivin'.